Hey guys, today I'm letting you look over my shoulders as I plan out my expenses and my budget for December 2019. If you're interested in seeing how I personally budget, stay tuned. Welcome to my channel. My name is OZELLA and I run a new blog called theintentionaldollar.com where I blog about everything related to being more intentional with money. On this channel, I plan to share my debt-free journey as it relates to budgeting and creating extra money in my income. If you're interested in content like that, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell so you're notified each time I upload a new video. So like I said, today I'm walking you through how I budget normally in any given month. Now, if you saw my previous budget with me in November, this one will be a little different or set up a little differently, but I'm hoping to be able to just share more tips with you guys so that it helps you more as you get ready to budget for December as well. So the first thing I like to do when I do my budget is make a list of all of the unusual expenses or any events that I have coming up in the upcoming month, because these are the expenses that you are likely to forget because they're not your usual expenses. So in December we have Christmas, which for us Christmas financially is already set. We already have our funds for Christmas. And then my husband's birthday is actually in January. However, it's at the early part of January. So in order for me to be prepared for his birthday, I need to budget for that this month in December. Then the other thing we have going on this month is our cruise. So we're going on a 10-day vacation and we're taking our entire family of 6 and we have cash flowed the entire vacation. I'm super proud of me and my husband because this is the first time we've ever cash flowed something as big as this. We typically rely on, or we used to rely on credit cards for just about everything. So this is kind of like a big accomplishment for us. But anyway, so I usually just write it on a little sticky note and put it off to the side so that, as I'm writing out my budget plan, I remember to include those expenses. The next thing I do is I make a list of all of the bills that I have coming up. And really what I do is use last month's budget to plan out this month's expenses. If you are completely new to budgeting, then I would say pull your bank statements for the last couple of months. Any regular debit or credit cards that you use, pull those statements and then highlight the different categories of expenses. Highlight your different bills that you have paid and use those and include that into your budget. So I'm going to write out my expenses really quick and I will be right back. Alright, so I am all done writing out my expenses for December. And as you can see, I like to write out my bills in numerical chronological order based on when the due dates are. And so for this month, I started on the 13th. If you are paid bi-weekly, you know we got paid 3 times in November. So the last paycheck in November was on the 29th. Well, because I'm not a month ahead on my bills, that paycheck on the 29th had to cover me all the way through until my next paycheck, which is on the 13th. So all of my expenses for December up until the 13th are already covered. And so that is why I started my bills on the 13th. So I go all the way through to the end of the month. Now, when we get to January, I'm not paid again until the 10th of January. And so I have to be able to cover all of those bills up until the 10th of January. Now, I am a two-income household. I am paid bi-weekly and my husband is paid weekly. However, for most of our bills, I typically cover the bills with my paychecks. With my husband's paychecks, he normally covers the personal loan and a lot of our cash expenses. So that is the way we do it, and it's been working for us. The next thing I like to do is use this list here to plug into my monthly budget plan. This is basically an overview of my expenses for the month. After I plug in my expenses, it shows me how much money I have left over for envelopes as well as debt. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to put this off to the side and show you how I create my monthly budget plan. So I do have a full-time job, and then my husband has a full-time job, and I do have a part-time job. However, I don't know how much longer that's gonna last, so I'm not including it in my budget. The one thing you want to make sure you pay attention to when you're doing your budget is looking at the income. So if you know that there's income that you are expecting to receive, however, you are unsure if you're going to receive it, I would not include it in my income for my budget. Like things like child support and spousal support, things like that, you are supposed to receive it. Even sometimes not business expenses, but business income. Your business income is, if you run your own business on the side, that income is usually when you're starting out is unpredictable. It's not guaranteed, so you don't want to include that in your budget and then come up short at the end of the month. So I would only include income that I know I will actually receive, which is my full-time, my husband's full-time, and then our reimbursement from our flex spending account. I pay for childcare, but I have a certain amount coming out each paycheck to go towards my flex spending account for dependent care. And as I pay my mom to watch my kids, I get reimbursed that money. So it's still my money, but it's kind of like a tax deduction, if you will. And I am not a tax advisor, so do not take any tax advice from me, but it's something that I do to decrease my taxable income. So my expected income is $39.06, and my husband's, I would say $1,600, even though that might be a little less, which is already less than it has been because he is working a day shift right now until he learns a new job. He works second shift, which he gets a differential for, but now that he's on first shift for the time being, he does not get that differential. So already our budget is short $400. And then we get reimbursed $300 for the flex spending account. So in total, that is $58.06. And we do not designate any funds towards savings in our budget because we have a certain amount of money going to savings before we even get our paycheck. So it's automatically deducted from our paycheck before our paycheck comes to us. So I know you've heard, that saying, pay yourself first. Well, it's really important that you do because, you don't miss what you don't see, really. And then just knowing that you got a bank account building up for when you need it, it's a good thing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go through my fixed expenses and write those down. My total expenses totals out to $24.95. I do like to do my math twice to make sure that I calculate everything accurately. So that is what I get for my fixed expenses. The next thing I do is my variable expenses. And your variable expenses are the things that, or expenses that change each month, or the amounts change each month. So I do put my credit cards here because the amounts do change slightly each month, but any other variable expenses that you have as well. So I'll go ahead and write those down and total that up and come back and show you guys. Alright, so for my variable expenses, my total is $832. And as you can see, I put question marks towards some of the expenses. That is because right now I do not know how much those items are. Every other expense, I know the exact amounts of the bill. However, putting a question mark next to these expenses just tells me that I need to go back and double check to make sure that I was, close, or my figures were accurate. So after I get done figuring out my fixed expenses and my variable expenses, I like to just calculate and see where I'm at as far as leftovers are concerned. So my total income, projected income is $5806, and then I'm just gonna deduct my fixed expenses as well as my variable expenses, and that is $24.79. I have $24.79 left to divvy out my cash envelopes, sinking funds, and extra debt payments. So for cash envelopes, those are basically anything that you can pay cash for each month. So things like, I'm putting grocery here, car gas for both me and my husband, and then I pay childcare, also my kids' co-op, their allowance, our personal money, as well as therapy, the copay for therapy. So for this month, for groceries, I'm budgeting a little extra to account for a Christmas dinner. We are not going overboard. However, I will budget an extra $100. And then for car gas, we do budget a pretty decent amount, because I drive a lot from my job, and then my husband commutes for his job. So that is why that is as high as it is. Child care, I pay $300, and the co-op is $45. Allowance, I have 3 kids, however, only 2 get allowance. They get $5 a week, which I think is pretty reasonable for them. For our personal spending money, this month I'm only gonna budget $50 a month for each of us because we will be on a cruise for 10 days out of this month. So yeah, we'll be okay. Hopefully we come back with a little bit of money and not spend everything. So, and then for the therapy is 50. So I'm just gonna total those out really quick and I'll be right back. My cash envelopes total out to $14.85. The next thing I like to do is, because I'm on a debt-free journey, paying off my debt holds a little more weight than adding money to my sinking funds. However, this month the only amount that I'm putting extra towards debt is the amount that I'll get reimbursed from my flex spending account, which is the $300. And that's going to IRS. Hopefully we don't have to owe for this year. After I do the debt, I'm going to calculate and see how much money I have left over for sinking funds. Now, if you are a Dave Ramsey fan, I don't think he promotes having sinking funds while you're paying off debt, because a lot of his principles are kind of like gazelle intense. So he really wants you to be throwing any and every additional dollar at debt. Meanwhile, my family is doing something a little differently. We are trying not to incur any more debt. So having sinking funds is kind of important for us. We want to stay out of debt as much as possible. So after I deduct all of these expenses, I'm left with $694 for sinking funds. One of my main priorities right now with sinking funds is my vow seed for church. I am a member of a church, and their goal right now is to raise a certain amount of money for a down payment to be able to own their building. And so we all filled out vow seeds. Basically, that's the amount that we vow to contribute towards that down payment. And our church is calling 2020 the year of the harvest. So I'm sowing my seed right now. So, all right, for December, I am budgeting $500. And that leaves me with $194. So that's not too much to work with. So here is where you kind of have to figure out what's important to you to contribute money towards for this month. So I created this budget categories list, and if you're interested in receiving this list, you can click that first link in the description below, and I'll also leave it in the cards up above, so you can click either or and be directed to download this link. Now, downloading this budget categories list, will put you on my email list, but I only send out emails that will help you along your financial journey. So this is what I like to use for sinking funds because my categories are pretty much set. But for sinking funds, not really sure what to start. $194 is not a lot to work with at all. But let's see. I want to try something different this year. I want to pay my car insurance off in full when it is time to renew. So I'm going to designate 50 towards that. So that's 144. And then my husband's birthday, I'll just put 100 towards that. And I don't plan on going, doing elaborate things for his birthday. He understands the journey we're on right now. He doesn't ask for much. So what I am getting him, he'll be appreciative of. So I have $44 left. I will add 20 to housing. And basically this is going to cover things like laundry detergent and dish soap and things like that. And then the other 24 I will just put towards activities / entertainment. So I'm just gonna total this out and make sure that it comes up to $694. Once I go to put everything in here, everything should total out to $0. I do like to have a zero-based budget, and basically what that is making sure that every dollar amount that comes in is accounted for. So if you get anything extra that you didn't budget for, if you're on a debt-free journey, that additional money can go towards debt. If you're saving for something, maybe you're saving for a down payment, that money can go towards that. If you're building your emergency fund, you kind of get the point. But make sure that every dollar that comes in is accounted for, and that is how you have a zero-based budget. So my total income should be $48.06, nothing to savings. And then my total expenses is $55.06, and then total debt is $300. And just looking at this, I know that it totals out to $58.06. So that is a zero-based budget. So the last thing I like to do is just write in my bills on the due dates that they are due to come out. This is really helpful for when I do my paycheck by paycheck budgeting. I do budget by paycheck so that each bill is paid on time. And so this is going to be helpful for that. Now, like I said, I'm paid bi-weekly and my husband is paid weekly. So I use these little, any sticker really, but I will use 2 stickers on the days that both me and my husband get paid, and then 1 sticker on the days that only he gets paid. And I like to be creative, but I'm not one of those sticker planner people. God bless you guys that can afford all of those sticker kits and all that stuff, but I do like to dress it up just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to show you how I go ahead and write in my bills. will see all of my bills laid out in a monthly format. So this is easy for me to look at and plan out my paycheck to paycheck budgeting. I got this idea from another YouTuber, but I color coordinated mine based on the bills that are auto drafted versus the bills that I have to physically get online or make a telephone call to pay. So as you can see, most of my bills, I color coordinated them green. Can you guess what that means? They are on auto draft. I make most of my bills auto draft because if I relied on me and my procrastinating self, all of my bills will be late. So most of my bills are on auto draft. I only have a select few that I have to physically pay myself, and those are the ones that I highlighted in green. But this is how I'm starting to lay out my monthly format. Previously, I just wrote the bills in, but I much prefer having it color coordinated, and it's kind of like a visual. Like if I look at this, I can see that, oh, you need to get online and pay this bill so you're not late. So I do like this format, but I'll go ahead and just put everything in my happy planner. And by the way, if you do end up downloading my template, if you want it to fit in your happy planner, just scale it down to 84%. Scale it down on your printer to 84% because it is set to print in a letter size. So after you scale it down and print it, just cut it out to the dimensions of the happy planner. And the happy planner dimensions are 7 inches by 9.25 inches. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more of my content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you're notified when I upload new videos. Until next time, guys, bye.